This is timely because, Lisa, congratulations on being, what's the word? Well, becoming a fellow of the Institute. So very well deserved.
Thank you.
Perhaps long overdue, but there we go. Anyway, so with you being, an experienced CoSec, which you are, and Alana starting off. Well, not how many exams have you done?
How many exams have I done? 3 plus.
Okay.
5.
So point out.
I have 2 left. That's how I think about it.
So a part qualified CoSec,
Yeah.
almost, we could even almost call you a finalist.
Yeah.
So it's just really what we're going to talk about is just introduce some of the things about why you wanted to get into the governance profession in the first place, what you're hoping to get out of it, and what you're finding, because someone who's right at the start of you're not right at the start of your career, but earlier in your career, someone who's a bit later, and someone who's later still.
Yeah.
But anyway, so Alana, over to you. What?
So I think if you're not in you hear a lot of people say that they fell into the career. If you are sort of learning about the career through the qualifications like I did. So I knew that corporate governance existed. I didn't realize that it was an industry in itself. I thought you had to be a qualified solicitor or a qualified accountant, and only then could you become a company secretary, but as part of a different job. So if you're a GC, then you could also be the CoSec, or if you were the CFO, you could also be the CoSec. I didn't realize that there were exams that you could take, that you could qualify through the institute, and that would give you the same qualifications to become a CoSec.
So it sounds like you didn't even know there was an institute.
No, I didn't. Or if there was an institute that, once you were qualified, you could join it as a professional rather than being in training kind of thing. So then when you go onto the website, you do your research, you're kind of promised this career as like, the advisor to the board and sort of the nucleus of the company. And they use all these fluffy terms, should I say.
The conscience of the company.
Yeah, the conscience of the company is a favorite as well. And then you do these exams, and then when you start to think, right, like I need to get into the industry, I think what I've found is that there's not a lot that matches up between what you're learning on the course, which is great, and then what plays out in reality. I think a lot of our industry are in professional services. They're doing fund administration, and they're doing sort of a company compliance thing rather than the more governance advisory piece, which is not played up as much on the qualification. So I think that comes as a bit of a shock to the system of, there's this entire part of the industry that's sort of not
covered
promoted.
By the curriculum.
Yeah, or not promoted, I guess, and that the jobs in advisory are very limited, if any, really. But yeah, that's my take on it, starting out.
So Lisa, do you think, as you're a fully qualified and experienced CoSec, that the exams prepared you for the roles you've had?
I think it did for me. Yes, I do think it did. I know the exams have changed over the years since I last sat them, but I do feel like it did help prepare me for what I was required to do. I knew absolutely nothing about governance when I first got into it. I didn't know it existed, and initially I was attracted by the kind of admin part of the role because that's what my background was. Yeah. So I looked at that job description and thought, yeah, I can do those things. I was attracted by the qualification. It definitely made me apply for my first CoSec job because personally I didn't go to university and I wanted to have that professional qualification. And yeah, I thought the exams were very helpful. I started with the corporate governance exam, and that gave me a really good overview of what governance was all about. And I was starting from nowhere. So I think from that perspective, yes, it did really help. I think to Alana's point, I think you become, the trouble with the profession, I suppose, is that advisor role doesn't seem to kick in until you hit company secretary level.
True. Yeah.
I think, and then it depends probably what organisation you work for and how well respected the role is within the organisation. Yeah. I don't think from a CoSec assistant CoSec, that you really get seen as that advisor, like you say.
So it's a thing of experience then,
or
job just qualification and job title.
Yes, I think potentially.
Yeah, well, I think then you have to. So there's lots of people out there who aren't qualified at all. So you have to, but you get the qualification, then you get the work experience, and then you almost earn the right to get the variety. So I think that's really the way that trajectory and the way that it's kind of does work. And that is the traditional way to do it. I mean, do you think that's something that you were thinking about, or does that sound true to you?
I think in terms of if the exams and the qualification are aimed at people who are starting out in their career, especially with the part 2 exams, that's more aimed towards things that you would consider as a company or a deputy company secretary.
Okay. More senior role.
More senior role. So I just wonder whether it would be better to sort of ingrain that company administration piece as you're starting out, and then to have almost split the qualification, and then have that advisory piece when it would match up with your career.
That's an interesting way of looking at it.
Yeah,
I think that's a really good idea.
but let's not change it until I'm done with the qualification.
No. But I do see that, and I think that with some of the courses that we offer, they are what people are interested in is the nuts and bolts of being a CoSec. What do I actually have to do? And some other aspects of the course, almost like the nice to have. And that's kind of what you're saying, is that there's an element to the qualification which is more junior, and then get the experience there, and then you build up to the next level, and maybe there is something in that. But so another point. So I'll come back to you, Lisa. I mean, we talk about it being a profession, which of course it is. So we're all professionals. We are allowed to call ourselves professionals. Lots of other people call themselves that, but I don't think they are. But why do you think that the CoSec profession is not viewed always the same as a legal qualification or an accountancy?
I don't think it just doesn't have the profile, I think, that the legal profession has. Everybody knows what a lawyer is, what a lawyer does, and has maybe some idea as to the length of qualification they've had to go through to get into the position, and all the training contracts they've had to go through in order to get where they are. The profile of the company secretary is just nowhere near at that level. People don't know what a company secretary is, or what they do, or what we go through to become fully qualified.
So why would a company then, if people don't know what, or more unsure about what a CoSec does, why would a company come to a consultancy like Beyond Governance and say, we're not sure if we need you, but why do we need you? So any thoughts on that?
It's probably slightly different at a company level, particularly if you're
But
a
if they've
listed company and you need
but
that kind of
most companies aren't listed.
No, that's very
So
true.
most companies are just, they get to a certain point, they've heard about this thing called governance, they've heard about what, we've got directors, we've got shareholders, we've got stakeholders, but we're just not sure how it all fits together and whether we're doing it properly.
I think sometimes they'll find their directors will have come in from a listed background, and they know, and to them governance is important, and they will come into a company and say, well, why don't you have this, why don't you have that? And that will then get the company thinking about what it is they really need that they maybe haven't thought about before. I think sometimes it does stem from that board level where they've had experience elsewhere, where they've had good governance, and they question why there isn't, or bad governance, yes, and things have gone wrong, and they want to make sure that, I suppose, they're protected as directors if it goes wrong again.
Yeah. So it's kind of, I suppose as a company grows and it takes directors from outside, then they bring with it, other experiences, and they might push forward this thought. But so, Alana, how would you say to a successful CEO, should we say, someone who's run their own company, built it up, hasn't got a CoSec in place, what would you say to that person to say, well, okay, you've spent 10 years building up a company, you're full of ideas, you're full of energy, but, you want to grow and you want to start doing things properly. Why do you need a CoSec?
I think the trouble with governance is that it's almost like an invisible problem. It's hard to show companies, especially if they're not listed and there's no sort of regulatory requirement. It's hard to show how having a governance professional in-house and not just have a CFO do it or director or the board as a whole say how things should be run from an internal controls perspective. It's really hard to explain to people how we can help. And I think it's, yeah, a lot of governance is in the gray area. A lot of governance is in sort of, giving little pieces of advice where it's like, you could do it this way and it makes things easier. But yeah, I think to start with, touching on what the regulation touches on, so helping with that, doing that board support bit, doing that company advisory bit, and then starting with the company's house, like, filings and the company administration. I think if you start with that and then slowly the job evolves, I
Yeah.
guess.
So perhaps, so a company that was looking to grow knows it needs something. That's why they might go to a consultancy in the first instance, who can go in and just say, well, this is how other companies, similar to you in the same area, same sector as you, or same sort of same period of where they are, evolution. This is what they potentially would need. So it's an interim solution. It's something which is just short term, putting things in place, a framework in place, some ideas in place, some thinking in place, and then, and in which time they could then create a role. But we can go in and kind of set the foundations for it, which I think is very important, very useful, because we bring that experience, which a lot of companies, they don't know. They don't know. Perhaps they know there's a gap, but they don't know how to fill it. So that's something we can usually help with.
Yeah,
I think.
and I think a lot of people see governance as a bit of a blocker and something that makes things more complicated, when actually governance is the complete opposite. Governance is there to help you streamline your processes, make things easier. So if you're trying to make a decision, if you've got that proper governance framework in place, you know when the decision needs to be made, how it needs to be made, who's making it, if it needs to go to the board, you know when the board meetings are set. So having that governance framework there just makes life so much easier for everybody in the company to do their jobs.
Yeah. So you need to give people the rules in which to play
Yeah.
play within.
Yeah.
So we can certainly help do that, because the rules are quite simple. They can flexible and adaptable, but you can have them. You can take them from one company to another, because that does work. So I suppose also translating the language of governance into something which someone who's very busy and isn't particularly interested could understand. So something you talked about is how you go in and essentially you're casting the role as a problem solver, because everyone likes that. No one wants blockers. No one wants problems. They want people to come in and make things happen and get rid of the problems. So there's an element of translating, because the last thing anybody wants is someone to come in and start quoting the rule book at them. So
But then it's difficult for decisions to be made if there isn't a proper process in place.
you need the process,
to happen.
but you say you say this is a practical application. This is why this is the purpose of it.
Yeah.
And I think that's what gets lost in a lot of governance conversations, is that people don't understand why they're doing something. They know what they're doing.
Yeah.
They know how to do it.
Yeah.
But they just don't know why.
No.
Why are we doing this? Oh, it's because that's what we've always done, or maybe this is, or we've never done it like that. But this is the point, isn't it? They don't understand why they're doing things. So that's something that we can do, is help you understand the purpose of what you're doing, why you're doing this, and where you're going to get with it. So going back to the qualification scheme. So as a finalist, you've been through quite a few of the exams.
Yeah.
A couple more to go. What's missing from the curriculum, which should make it, you think, you've got quite a lot of experience as well of working. What's missing? What would make it better? What would be more useful to people in your opinion?
I don't know, if I had to draw an analogy with, I guess, the way lawyers train, I think that element of I don't think there's a standardization in the vocational part of your job. So if I start out my career in a certain kind of company, I might not be getting the same training or the same foundational knowledge that somebody else in a similar sort of, at a similar level as me. So I think maybe there's there's an argument to be made that we need something like a training contract of some sort to make sure there is standardization over training and about what you're doing. I also think the qualification is geared towards people that work in a listed space, and there's a heavy reliance on the corporate governance code. But as we said previously, most companies aren't listed, or even most PLCs aren't listed. They just have the PLC name.
Because they're a public company.
Yeah, they're a
Yeah.
public company, but
Yeah,
without
but not
listed
listed.
shares.
Yes, exactly,
Yeah,
yes.
So I think understanding that maybe the qualification is not suited to the reality and to the average governance professional and what the average governance professional's career would look like. I think there needs to be more work done to say, right, like what are we actually doing? And are we actually preparing people for the career that they're definitely going to have rather than the one we want them to have?
I mean, I think that's right. I think that's. I don't agree with all of what you've just said, but I mean, I do think you've touched on a point I do agree with, is that there's no standardization because I mean, all companies are different, and the job can be very, very different in different places. And that's what we do, is we have all that different experience, and then we go in and understand that not everything is going to fit. 80% probably will, but then you've got to have that 20% wiggle room. But there's that reliance on people. I mean, I've been lucky to have some great bosses who were very supportive of me, but helped me develop. But that, whilst I was doing the exams and after qualification, you're able to get those skills, but you are reliant and almost lucky in having that. And not everyone's been lucky enough to have that. But in terms of standardization, you'd think that some of the, training contracts, for instance, I mean, some of the law firms and, the big accountancies, I mean, they do train CoSecs, don't they? But I wonder if they do it in the same way as they would a lawyer.
And I think one thing as well that may be lacking slightly, and I don't really know how they would incorporate this, is more the softer skills that you need as a company secretary, because a lot of the job is about relationships, building relationships with the chair, with the board, with the CEO, with their PAs. You need to have really good, strong relationships with people across an organisation. And the qualification, I don't think, really picks up on that at all.
No, I don't think. I think you're right. So, how do you build relationships with people, Lisa?
That is the question.
Yeah, well, it is, but it is a skill.
It is, yeah, yes. And I find just generally being quite open and transparent with people, being supportive of them, but also, questioning as well, challenging them. People don't necessarily dislike being challenged.
No, they don't. But I think what people really, really like is being listened to.
Yes. Yeah.
Because people are used to being spoken to, spoken at. So if you listen to people, that does help. I mean, interesting you say soft skills, and it is an undervalued part of the profession. Some people don't value it at all. Some people don't have any. So that's probably why. But, say that, one of the courses that we offer has a big section on soft skills, because it is an important part of going on to that next level. Because I think that governance is all about people. And, you're having to get people who are very, very busy to do things they don't see as a priority. And that is what you're going to be doing as a governance professional for a lot of your career. So it's how you get people to do stuff. And I think, you've touched on that, but it's like how you flex your approach to different sorts of people. They have different levels of understanding and interest in what you're doing. So, you have to use different language that's appropriate to them, they're going to understand, and then you're going to get the result that you need.